Hi, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and today we're going to discuss the second reason that marriages to widows and widowers end in divorce. Now, if you saw the previous video, the first reason is that the widow or widower isn't ready to open their heart, and when you have someone in a marriage that's not ready to open their heart, well, that marriage is going to fall apart. I encourage you to watch that video and get the details there. So what is the second reason? Well, the second most common reason that marriages to widows and widowers fall apart has nothing to do with the widow or widower themselves and everything to do with the partner, and specifically what the partner allowed before they exchanged vows. Now, it usually goes something like this when they're dating. Maybe this person is understanding, patient, and compassionate when they start dating a widow or widower because they know that person has been through deep loss and they want to give the widow or widower time and space to heal and feel safe. But the problem is when they do that, they don't want to push when red flags show up. What happens is that they let things slide. For example, maybe the late wife's photo is in every room and they don't say anything about how that makes them feel uncomfortable. Maybe the widow or widower inserts the late spouse into every conversation and they don't say anything because they don't want to be accused of being not compassionate. And then it grows. They don't speak up on these small things, and then it grows. You have holidays and summer vacations, and they end up going to the beach or the cabin where that widowed person and their late spouse loved going and spent a lot of their time. Maybe they disregard their Christmas or New Year's plans to fit the widow or widower's routines and traditions. And they figure these things will sort themselves out the more they're together, and once they're married, they'll create their own life, their own routines, and their own traditions. However, the truth is, if you don't set and enforce boundaries before marriage, you won't magically get them after the wedding. In fact, all you'll get is more of what you already had, only now it's permanent. So when you stay silent about your needs, when you avoid setting boundaries out of fear or set boundaries but don't follow through with consequences, you end up pushed to the side in your own relationship. And over time, especially when you're married, that leads to growing resentment and simmering frustration. I've worked with many clients who have married widows or widowers and more or less moved into homes that were still frozen in time, almost exactly as they were when the late spouse was alive. And from the first day, these people feel like outsiders, not only in their own homes, but in their own marriages. Others have told me that they assumed the widow or widower would eventually grow a backbone and stand up to their children after they tied the knot. Instead, they found that they still caved to them and put the feelings and needs of their adult children above the needs of their spouse. And when I ask, well, why didn't you speak up and say something before the wedding? Some admit they were afraid of being accused of trying to erase the past. Others tell me that they thought that the widow or widower would just fix things after vows were said. And some were scared that raising concerns would just end the relationship. Do not do this. If you don't voice your needs and set boundaries when you're dating, you won't have a leg to stand on once you're married. You teach people how to treat you. If you tolerate behavior that makes you uncomfortable, such as being overshadowed by the late husband or wife, if you're sidelined by the children, or if you're left out of big decisions, you're sending a message that that's okay. Marriage will not cure that dysfunction. All it does is lock it in. And once it's locked in, it's extremely difficult to undo. So, don't make that mistake. Go ahead and share your thoughts and comments or stories below. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay in touch with my latest videos, and I'll post the third video on why marriages to widows and widowers fail. And spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with the widow, widower, or the person who's dating them. So look for that video. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and I'll see you all next Wednesday.